Okay, bonjour tout le monde. Hello, everyone. Happy April. This is our officials update for the month. And we're going to be going over sort of where we're at with programming, what some new initiatives are going forward, what are some opportunities for officials, and certainly an opportunity for you to think about things and put together any questions that you may want to email into us. Of course, I'll be speaking in English during this presentation. Si vous en avez des questions en français, n'hésitez pas de les poser tes questions en français par courriel, and we'll get back to you as quickly as we possibly can. Okay, let's dive right into it. And sort of an update as to who are our officials. We are getting we're more than halfway through the the membership year. And what we've done here is we've taken a look at, on the left, who are our officials by province, and that's on the inside of the sort of pie chart. And then what is the actual membership percentage of each province, which is sort of on the outer side of the pie chart. And I will say that the number of officials for most provinces does pretty closely mirror their provincial membership. The one exception would be Ontario, where we actually have the largest number of officials in Ontario. But compared to the membership that we have in Ontario, it's actually they're slightly underrepresented. The only province where I would suggest even just slightly overrepresented, it does happen, but BC has moved up nicely. Manitoba is moving up nicely. And certainly Quebec has done a fantastic job of late. On the right-hand side of the page, we're just looking at what official levels we have on file for everyone by province. And we continue to see that overall, Ontario and Quebec have the most officials. It's not entirely surprising. BC has really been pushing forward, and congratulations. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Congratulations to BC on implementing their strategy of requiring every sanctioned club to have at least one judge level one official. And it has really bumped up their numbers. And I suspect actually their numbers of judge level ones is higher than what we've got here, just that within the registration system, we currently have blanks for a number of their officials. I'm not sure if you can see my cursor if I move it around on the screen, but if we look at the bottom segment of each one of these graphs, which is the darker blue, and I'll pick on Nova Scotia here just because it's the easiest one to see, where they have the sort of large region of blue, deep blue, and that is officials who we just don't have written down records on what level they're at. So we continue to try to mop those up. Congratulations to Quebec and to Manitoba on having no unknowns within their system. That's quite remarkable, and congratulations to both Natalie and to Bavik for the job that they're doing there as the chief officials. So that's just to give you a little update. Now, we finished up our U17, U19, U23 Nationals at the end of March. I want to congratulate all the officials who came out to help us. It was quite a hectic 4 days of competition with two very full rings, and a lot of patience on the part of the officials because we ran into a few little problems. And the primary one was that when we arrived on our first day, the two registration computers and computers that we were using for to run our competition management software had disappeared on us, and we still have not been able to recover those. But we moved to paper backups, thanks to Jeff Verhoeven as the TD for doing such an amazing job at making sure everything ran so smoothly. There were some lessons to be learned. I think some of them for officials and certainly a lot for Boxing Canada. And the first one is when we look at the paper bout supervisor sheet, and I don't have one in front of me here, unfortunately, but it is sort of a horizontal layout in most iterations. And one of the things that we were finding was that under pressure and with a bit of fatigue, it can be difficult for officials sometimes to be able to quickly go through and make sure that the math is right for making sure we know who actually has won the bout. So we'll have to put some thought into what are we going to do about that. A problem that I created and take responsibility for, because we're pushing to do early draws. We do run into situations where we have athletes not show up unexpectedly, and we have been putting some thought into exactly what the rules should be, like the guidance should be on when exactly redraws are necessary, because we want to make sure that everyone feels that they're being treated fairly, and we certainly hear that feedback. Boat schedule for nationals, based on the feedback that we got from specifically from the officials. We had been initially targeting sort of 18 to 20 bouts as a maximum, which of course makes for a very, very long session. But we're going to try at national level competitions to now get that target down to 16 bouts per max. And for our elite nationals that are coming up in Cape Breton, based on the lessons that we learned in Winnipeg, we've decided and are going full steam ahead with a 5 days of competition rather than 4, which should really help to sort of smooth out the transitions between days and make sure that we're not overloading any particular days on the schedule. So I think that's a good one, and we'll have to look at how we're going to incorporate that into our U17, U19, and U23 championships in the future. With the evaluator mentor role that we had, and we've now done 2 of these, right? So we had Roland Labbe in Winnipeg, and Wade, pardon me, Wade, I'm so sorry. Wade was doing this role for us in Calgary, and the opportunity for direct feedback available for officials, both judging and refereeing, is so important. And we saw that quite clearly in the thoughtful responses that our officials did provide to us after the competition. And so this is certainly something we are going to continue doing, because it is a tremendous way for us to be able to upskill and all of the officials who are attending our national championships. And I will say, based on not so much feedback that we were getting from the officials, but certainly feedback from coaches, there was some debate over the potential for provincial conflict of interest, and making sure that we've got opportunities to schedule out officials so that we can mitigate those circumstances as best possible. We are a small country. We don't have a lot of resources to be able to just have, tens and tens and tens of officials at our national championships. So we will always have to deal with this. And certainly we were a few steps behind on this for the competition, because we were in a situation where the competition management software wasn't available to us, which would have, certainly helped us to do this more easily. So is something that we will continue looking at for the future. Now, looking in general at officials resources, I just want to remind everyone the officials page up on our website has our full pathway in it. It's got documents and forms. We keep adding to those available forms, especially because, different provinces have examples of forms that are formatted slightly differently, and we want to make sure that those are all available for everyone to use and to try out and to modify. If you see or have an idea on how to do things better, we want to hear about it. Also, we've got information on the National Officials Committee, and we've got specific information available for ring doctors. And that could be experienced ring doctors, or it could be if you've got a ring doctor who hasn't yet been a ring doctor but is interested, that'd be a great place to push them to see if they need some additional information to get them over the hump and have them come out and help at competition. The other major resource that we've got is new, of course, this year, and we started it off in January, which is our National Officials Plan. So it lists out sort of upgrade opportunities, camp opportunities, um, opportunities for nationals assignments, and any international tournament assignments that we have some control over. Because of course, at world boxing level, they take care of their own officials and have their own system for choosing. But when our national team goes out of the country, we are often asked to bring an official with us. And we've now put down sort of on paper what the process is when we have those opportunities come up. So speaking specifically to that, we do have some opportunities coming up quite soon, and that's next month in Serbia and Eindhoven and Hungary. We've actually got 3 tours all in that same month. Then later on in the summer, we've got an opportunity where U17 national champions will be going down to Kansas City for the rival open. And then right before the Canada or Commonwealth Games, we've got a dual meet that we're going to run between us and Ireland in Ireland right after as I guess as part of our training camp before the Commonwealth Games. And we're going to actually have a full team over at that training camp. And because it's a dual meet that we'll be doing, we were asked if we could bring over an official or two, and we would love to do that. So for each of those competition opportunities, there'll be a grant available of $750 for any official who is selected to go. Now, obviously, that doesn't cover everyone's costs, but for virtually every organizing committee on that list, they're willing to put up some money for hotel and food while you're over there, and that way the $750 can take hopefully a pretty sizable bite out of the plane tickets that you might need. So those are available now. On the training side, we do have some camps coming up in Montreal, some of them before some of our teams leave on tour, and specifically ahead of China and the World Cup, we'll have an opportunity. But later in the year, in September, we've got our U23 assessment camp. And then in January 2027, we'll be doing our highly successful U17 and U19 camps. And all of those camps will feature sparring. And what we would like to do is have an opportunity for level 4 officials to come and practice judging, practice refereeing in Montreal here at the National Training Center. And we will bring in one of our esteemed world boxing level officials who can be there to provide feedback specifically to the officials on how they're doing in the ring and how they're doing with their judging. And that way you've got, the best athletes available in Canada who will be doing sparring right in front of you. And those athletes and our national team coaches benefit, of course, from having, a referee in the ring who can make sure everything stays above board. And, having the feedback available from judges on what they're seeing, how they felt the rounds went. And, that's really important for our coaches to be able to hear that. So we're looking forward to those opportunities. And like I said, anyone who's interested, take a look at the National Officials Plan. It'll show you how to find more information. And of course, level 3 upgrades, or level 4, pardon me, upgrades. So as we do these as requested by the provinces. So we do need a minimum number of candidates in order to run one, but should there be an opportunity that come up, or a province who thinks that, hey, we've got a bunch of level 3s who are ready to challenge for level 4, we want to hear about it. We may be able to link them up with an appropriate level of competition, and we can put forward a supervisor and evaluators to make sure that those potential candidates are getting the upskilling that we're looking for in order to make sure they're going to be successful. So just a quick reminder, the development pathway. So our levels 1 through 4, plus our ring supervisor course. And then beyond that, of course, we've got the World Boxing Continental, Intercontinental, and International levels. We don't have any control over the World Boxing stuff. And that's one of the reasons why we are starting to push harder on these opportunities for officials from Canada, level 4 officials specifically, to be able to go out into the world with a little bit of support, modest support, admittedly, from Boxing Canada, so that they can get international exposure, so they can be seen by other world boxing nations and hopefully get picked up for international assignments in the future. We've been embarking on this journey of trying to figure out how to best record officials' education and sort of levels and certifications. And certainly when you register as a member with your province, one of the fields available in the database is, what is your current level of officiating? But admittedly, that's self-reported, and there are a number of provinces where this doesn't seem to be entered into the database at all, unfortunately. So we're looking for other ways to go about this, and a number of sports have been using the NCCP, that's the National Coach Certification Program system, which is called the Locker for coach education. And we've now had the opportunity to just create all of our officials levels within that system. And we are working, in fact, we're about halfway through now, putting everyone's coach education into that system. What we found is a majority, in fact, a strong majority of our officials are also already in the Locker because they've taken some sort of education around coaching. But the Locker also offers a few other things, and that's there is safe sport education on there. There is diversity and inclusion education on there, how to deal with teenagers on there, how to deal with conflict. I mean, these are all, and most of these are free and available through the e-learning system. So I think there's great value to this, and you will be seeing over the next month and a half, probably some emails either from the Locker, if you don't already have an account on there, or from Boxing Canada, just reminding you that you have the ability to go into it and explore a little bit and see what education is available for you, and to be able to see documentation of what levels do we know that you have. And certainly if those levels are incorrect, we want to hear about it, because we want to make sure that all of our officials are appropriately certified, and that we're acknowledging the level of education and experience that you all have. When officials courses happen, from basically a few months ago on, this information needs to go directly into the NCCP system. So you can either have the provincial or territorial sport office or chief official, so like Boxing Ontario's chief official, Boxing BC's chief official, can put that information into the Locker through their provincial Locker administrator, which would be the same person who puts it in for coaching courses, or they can just send the information to us at the national office, and we'll put it in. It is with the number of officials courses that are happening, it's not all that many, and we're just happy to do it. It's an easy thing, and that way we know that we'll have the right information available for all time. So a reminder about concussion awareness. So, I mean, this is a big thing, obviously, in our sport, and we do such a good job in educating everyone about it, and we're attentive to this issue. But we want to make sure that for officials at level 2 or higher, that they are going and taking the NCCP Making Headway in Sport program. It is free, it is easy to get to, and it doesn't take very long, right? You're talking about 25 minutes. So it's something we suggest everyone be doing. And we had originally just been enforcing this with coaches at a fairly mid to high level, and we've now incorporated that throughout the coach development pathway to make sure that those coaches are well educated. And a reminder, if you're going to be officiating outside of Canada, we would really appreciate if you could fill in an international travel pass. These are available for our athletes, coaches, and officials to put in. what this does is, one, it gives us some data about who's going out into the world, and things like at what age are they going, at what experience level are they going, and where are they going. But it also provides, especially for the Americans, uh, documented proof that you are actually a member of Boxing Canada. So it's one thing to show up with just a number, or an official's record book or something that's got a sticker in it. It's something else to have a form that's been signed off by Boxing Canada and your PSO. So we would really appreciate if you can continue filling those out. We don't see very many for officials, and that's part of that is education, and part of that is, I mean, I don't assume we've got officials going out every single weekend down to other countries. So if you have any questions about that, please don't hesitate to reach out. Reminders on the rule books. So we've got our rule books published. They're on the officials page and they're in the document section. We've got an English and French version of the World Boxing Book. However, I would remind you that the translation that we have for the World Boxing en français is not official, right? So I would defer to the English version in that case. However, the two versions of the Canadian book in English and French are both official. And of course, we've got other bits related to the rule book. So the matchmaking cheat sheets, for instance, which were just recently updated. We really feel that those are a strong tool for officials across the country. And I've said this the last couple of meetings. I just remind everyone that any references to IBA and AIBA really should be removed off provincial websites. I know some of you have already got little nasty notes from us reminding you to do that, and we'll be starting to double check next month to see that those changes have been made. Reminder about para boxing. It's a thing. And I will say we had what I think was a successful, if maybe we were hoping for a few more people, but we're not talking about a huge population, but we had a demo of this happen at Nationals. We got some great media coverage out of it. And we actually got a lot of questions from our coaches on how they can incorporate para programming into their club environment. What does it take? And is it, given that para athletes don't grow on trees, is it okay to have able-bodied athletes being in a chair and boxing with para athletes? And the answer is absolutely. You certainly can. From a sparring point of view, all the regular safety precautions around sparring need to be taken into account. For competition, the general guidance, and I know this is happening in BC and in Nova Scotia, is make these exhibition bouts, treat everyone like a novice, and be ready to intervene and to break up the pace of the action in the ring if necessary, and talk to the athletes, right? The number one question that we got from our officials at Nationals was, well, how are they going to get in the ring? And the answer is, you ask them. and the para athletes, are a pretty resilient bunch. I've been lucky to work with them in a number of different sports. And, when they need some assistance, they are pretty good about asking, and they are also pretty good about bringing what I call support team with them whenever they go to a competition or a training. And so if they need some help, find out what that help is, and be open with them. If you don't feel comfortable, helping to pick someone up out of a chair, or even to move a chair, then just let them know, and we'll find a way. All right. The biggest barrier to para participation in any sport is that we don't open up a category for them. But just because you open up a category for them doesn't mean you're going to get flooded with para athletes. And para athletes understand that there are not many of them out there. So I don't think many of them are going to be expecting, the world to move on their behalf. All they are looking for is an opportunity to participate. And so if we can find ways to create those participation opportunities, I think it is incumbent on all of us to move in that direction. That said, we've updated our website with even more resources, and we're continuing to do that. And I suspect you will continue seeing, para categories being offered at our national championships going forward. Quick reminder on Safe Sport for officials. So, I mean, this is my favorite line. What does Safe Sport mean? It means don't be a jerk, right? So, if you've got someone at a competition acting like a jerk, you need to call them out on being a jerk. And we are looking for a minimum number of jerks in our sport at any given time. And I have a sincere belief that a lot of situations that end up getting out of hand really end up getting out of hand because no one intervened early. And sometimes just a little nudge early on in the day is something that will keep a situation from blowing up hours later. So I would encourage everyone to do that. If you are a level 1, 2, or 3 official, the free NCCP Safe Sport training, it's available online. It takes about 30 minutes to go through. It's a fantastic course. If you're a level 4 and you are officiating at a nationals, we are encouraging you to have a higher standard available to you, which is the Canadian Safe Sport Program e-learning. It is available for free, but it requires a little bit more work to get through. So if you have any questions about which one is appropriate, please let me know. And of course, if you've already got, one of the previous Safe Sport trainings, the Respect for Sport program that's been around for a few years, that's more than adequate. But because the NCCP course is free and because it is updated pretty regularly, like every 6 months, I strongly encourage people to go through and do an update to that every few years. Okay, and a few upcoming changes. So we are working hard on our Judge 1 online test. So because administering the Judge Level 1 is currently an on paper affair, we are looking at standardizing. So we're going to try hosting that on our CAC, NCCP database online, so that people will be able to go in for free, right, and take that online test, see how they do. And if they pass the test, then boom, instantly there's a record that they've achieved that, and it's pretty easy for them to go in and look and provide justification. We're also looking at taking the level 1 judge course online, and I know we had been offering this back during the pandemic, so we want to get back to it again, because if there's something we can do to lower the bar to just getting people in and able to judge, some regional or local level boxing, then this will be great for all of us. And then at a bit of a different tact, we've got our Ringside Doctor e-learning course. So we are about 3/4 of the way through production on this, and all we did was we took, to be honest, an old AIBA Ringside Doctor manual, and we combined that with the current World Boxing medical guidance or medical rules around competition. We combined those two things together, and we've turned that into an e-learning course. And the purpose of this isn't to, quote, certify anyone. It's primarily to give potential ringside doctors an understanding of what they'll be getting into and what the expectations will be for them. And I think that probably for just about all officials, especially, once you hit level 2, 3 anyway, that probably going through that e-learning module, because it will be free, available online, is probably a good idea, because it's not really focused on, techniques of, and when exactly stitches are required, and, how deep, cut means that a kid's not going to be able to compete anymore. It includes that information, but it's not really about that. It's about, where do you need to be? What are you looking for? What are the potential long-term ramifications of if we, get decisions wrong? And sort of reminders around all of that. So I honestly think it's going to be a tremendous resource. Plus, we're hoping that, this helps provinces be able to get a kind of a virtual Rolodex, if anyone remembers what those are, of, who are the doctors within their province who've actually taken this course and who are probably interested in coming out and doing some boxing. So, or some boxing ringside doctoring anyway. So like I said, when that comes out, and we're hoping for maybe another month and a half before we get it through translation, that we'll start advertising that out primarily to the provincial chief officials, but certainly to anyone who expresses an interest in being a doctor at any of our events. And then officials membership cards. So we have made a change in the format of our coach cards over the last year and a half, almost 2 years now, where we're actually showing directly on the card what their level of coach education is and whether they are in training, trained, or certified. And we are going to start doing something similar, not the same, but similar for our officials. So instead of just having a sticker in your book each year when you renew, you'll get a plastic membership card. And on that card, it'll have your name and your membership number, right, with the 2 letters of your province, the year, OF for official, and then an M or an F for your gender, and blah, blah, blah. And then it will also be pulling out of our database what level do we have online or on file for you, so that is clear for everyone. And it'll have some information about, have you taken any safe sport courses? So what we found is that by providing this information to our coaches about their coach education, it puts everyone in a position where they can trust that our coaches have the education requirements that are required around boxing, but also the safe sport oversight. And we live in a difficult time for sport, where we're trying to make up for some very, very poor behavior of a small but vocal members of our community across sports, not just in boxing. And this is one of the new realities that we're dealing with, is that, we need to make sure that people are well educated, understand, the rules around, safe sport and interpersonal relations, and just what is appropriate behavior, right? Going back to not being a jerk. And with the success that we've had in doing this well on the coaching side, we're looking at extending this out to our officials as well. So that is coming. One thing that didn't make it onto this slide, but has actually just come up in the last week, we've had some very spirited members of the registered practical nurse community expressing their desire for elements of our medical oversight to be open to them to be able to perform, rather than just MDs, so medical doctors. And we're exploring this, and we want to thank them for their encouragement to get us into this, because I think particularly around the annual medical checks, every bit of information we've been able to find, both federally and provincially, suggests that RPNs are able to do these checks, and that it should be accepted. And we are working with our insurance company and with examples from the provincial insurance companies to make sure that we're not overstepping on this one, but we're hopeful that in the next couple months we'll be able to make an official change so that these annual medicals can be performed by not just medical doctors, but also a small but very well educated and an amazing group of individuals within our healthcare system. We really hope that this will increase access, decrease wait times, and frankly, unburden our medical system where, for I think good reason, we are asking, healthy athletes to go in and make doctor's appointments. And if there's a way that we can mitigate the overall burden of the Canadian medical system, whenever we do that, I think it's incumbent on us to look at those opportunities. And of course, we're hoping, fingers crossed, it'll save us a few bucks. So that would be great too. Okay, and that wraps up for today. So if you're looking for more information, certainly check us out on our website with our Officiels section. We do, of course, have a phone number here in Montreal now, finally again. And certainly just, send us an email, info@boxingcanada.org. There'll be another Officiels update in July. And until then, I encourage everyone to look through this document. If you have any questions, send us an email, give us a call, and we'll get you answers. Okay, have a great day.